Blessings, brothers and sisters, Idrins and sisters. 3 and 3. When we talk about our degrees in our science, we say, what is the measurement? Is the judgment? So I would say, well, it's not Brother Lazarus, it's not Lazarus that makes the judgments. We weigh everything on the scale of nature. Nature is the understanding, for it is the language of the Creator. So in our divine lessons, we don't always begin with this, but we always deal with this science, is that people have misinterpreted the law of MAAT. People like to say that the law of MAAT is a negative confessions. And then people come and say a statement of, I have not. I have not. When we understand alchemy and the mental alchemist science, the science of the alchemist, it's a mental science, then we deal with that. A statement of I have not is not a negative statement. It is actually positive. It is a positive statement in weight, right? If I was to make you be able to say you have not, we always give the example. If you were on the plantation and your mother was being raped and the slave master sat his gun down and said, don't touch that because you'll be stealing my gun. Because you have to obey your master. And if the slave master said, don't touch my gun because you'll be stealing, and he goes to raping your mother and beating her, then if you grab that gun, you've stolen. And then if you shoot that gun and you've killed, then can you say, I have not? So does that mean that you cannot enter into the heavens, or does that mean that you violated the law of Ma'at because you cannot say, I have not? See, so our ancestors would never place that weight on your being because they understood your journey through these times. But for one thing that you had to understand was it is a state of mind, it is a science. It is a negative science you have to understand. So in the negative confessions, it would never be, I have not. It would always be in a personification as, I am not. For no matter what you go through and who you are two different things. The Bible story of the Savior Jesus is a story to really teach you a Christ consciousness, not so much as to worship. So in the Christ consciousness, the Jesus, right? Even though he is the Son of God, he goes and catches hell here. But that still does not change who he is. Okay? So that's a science. It's the negative confession. When we started understanding the negative confessions, we talk about the law of Ma'at and the scale of life. And that on the scale you have a 0 point, you have 0, you have the scale, which is 3 and 1, and then you have positive weight and you have negative weight, meaning something could be so light it is considered a negative weight. Something is heavy, it's a positive weight. So you have 0, negative, positive. That's your 3 and 1. That's your scale. That's a science. That's your cross. So in understanding the law of Ma'at says your heart must be light as a feather. So if you place a feather on a scale that is negative in weight, so it has no weight, it is not weighed down by this world. So when we understand this, we go to a science, and this is the point of this video. It's 3 and 1. It's 3 and 1. First, we say the law of Ma'at is a negative confession. And we show you that under the law of Ma'at, your heart must be light as a feather, right? And we would not say, I have not. We would say, I am not. Why would we say, I am not? Why? Because what you go through and who you are two different things. If what you go through weighs your being down, then you become weighed down. You become a positive weight. And your heart is not light as a feather. It is not negative. So your heart must be light as a feather. You must always separate what you go through from who you are. You must always know the divine truth of your nature. The science of your nature, regardless of what you go through, still exists. For you to access that science is on you. So now when we understand the negative confessions, let me see how to do this. I'm trying to figure out how to turn this around. So now when we come to this negative confessions, and we start understanding that I am not is different from I have not. And when you start understanding it from the perspective of my ancestors understanding your journey and understanding the science. Now, what you have to understand is when we get here and we talk about our 7 bodies, and we say that you are spirit, soul, mind, emotional body, astral body, life force, and physical body. Your physical body is earth. Your life force is fire. Your astral body is air. Your emotional body is water. Earth, fire, air, water is the 4 elements. It is the square in which you exist in. It is the physical matter. The physical matter is the Eve, is the mother. When we look at the physical matter is in what you would say negative. Negative. Now you will learn to understand why physical matter is into negative. Now, the higher self, which is the triune, represents spirit is always neutral. That's why we say neutron. Spirit is always neutral. There's the neutron. There is that neutral existence. The soul represents the prototype of your being. So your soul is the proton, the prototype. Now you have to study how the proton and the electron operate together. For the soul looks to the mind, for the mind is a mirror. And the mind is the electron. Now the electron is electricity. Remember, the movement of an electron in your body is electricity. So think about it. The movement of your mind represents the electrical force in your body, spiraling. So the mind is an electrical force. Now when we say the soul looks into the mind, the soul will duplicate whatever the mind reflects, because the mind is the mirror. It is the crossroad to the physical and the physical and the spiritual world. It is the mind. It is the keeper of the way. The mind is the 5th element. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is the number of power, electricity, power, generate. The mind must generate. So you must have knowledge of your equality, of your as above, so below. That is the 16, 3 plus 5 plus 8, which is 16. That is the first pillar of existence. When you have the 16, you acknowledge your equality, you acknowledge your as above, so below. You acknowledge the science of yourself. So now when we talk about the electron, if your electron can either go to a positive or negative. Now what does that mean? Let's say you're in your physical world, your physical being, right? And your physical being is supposed to be balanced as a foundation within this, your upper being. So there should be a magnetical connection. The lower self should be connecting to the higher self, because if we deal with magnets, see the shape of a magnet, the doorway, symbol of attraction, the magnet, but this is a doorway. This is the doorway. And the force of attraction is a negative, is the energy here. This is the tree. This is the electrical, right? So we're dealing with the science. 3 and 1. So when we start to understand that matter is considered negative as negative, and the above, matter being feminine, goes negative, the spiritual self, the higher self, is Adam or Atom, which is masculine, which would be why you say our Father who art in heaven, gets a positive. So when we say positive and negative, we want positive energy. Let's think about that. If your heart is heavy in the physical realm, if you've been overcome by your physical world, and you become heavy, remember on the scales, a heavy weight would mean that your heart then is in what you would call positive, right? So if you're down here in the physical and you have a positive instead of a negative here, your higher self and your lower self will do what? According to magnets. According to magnets, a positive here will repel the positive there. So instead of your higher self and lower self, the two becoming as one, they will repel. But if your heart is light as a feather and it is negative, it is the proper frequency of your nature. It will attract the higher self, the connection of the higher force. So that means when ions ascend from the physical world, when ions ascend from the physical world, when ions ascend to the pyramidal structure, when ions, negative ions, see, remember now, it's negative ions supposed to be being released, not positive, right? So you send the more heavier ions up to the ionosphere, and you send them heavy electrons releasing this thing from out of your being, you're causing a different type of frequency. But when you're light as a feather and your heart sends it up into the pyramidal structure, that negative ions produce a vortex. The Amen, the hidden. It's a secret. It's a science. I'm not going to go all the way too deep in it, but it is the black dot science. So what I'm going to do is, just so you can see something, because, see what it says? Aliens, Atlantis, Stargates, hidden. I want you to listen to what they say about the negative ions from the earth structure, meaning the four, from the earth structure, the four, the physical, earth, four, the four elements, and when the ions, the negative ions, release to your higher nature, pyramidal structure, this is all a part of your chakra system, all of the science that goes with this. When we talk about the tree of life, all of this incorporates the science to this. And we're talking about 3 in 1. So first we started with the law of MAAT being a negative confession, and that it is I am not, because I am not allows your heart to stay negative. If it is I have not, you have to take on a weight. You have to stress about if I have not. There's a pure intent in your being no matter what you go through. So it is always I am not. So that is a mental state that does not become drowned within the waters of this world. It is this Christ consciousness that is able to walk above the waters of this world. Okay, so that's just science. So let's get with this negative ion from the earth plane, triangular form, and let's just understand this in our dimensional stargate science so that some of you can understand what we're going through. Now y'all see this little tape, I cover up my camera because I know the Homeland Security people be peeping in sometime. Here we go, y'all. Just listen.
What are commonly known as earth energies